These young people didn't go to the mall and run up charges on a credit card. They worked hard, they stayed in class, they learned new skills, and they borrowed what they needed to pay for an education.
Welcome back to The Ed Show. Millions of young people in the United States are facing a mountain of debt. Outstanding student loans now total more than $1.2 trillion, which surpasses total credit card debt in this country. And every year, students are taking on more. But only one political party wants to do something about it.
Lower tax bills for millionaires or lower student loan bills for the middle class. This should be a no-brainer.
No brainer at all. Student loan debt is hurting our economy and holding back a generation of Americans. It demands the immediate attention of Congress. Student loan rates are double, triple, or even quadruple the amount needed to cover administrative costs, the cost of funds, and bad debts. On Monday, President Obama signed an executive order allowing students to cap their monthly loan payments at 10% of their income. Geez, where were you when I needed you? The Senate Republican leadership is calling the move an election year gimmick.
My counsel to my members is, why would we want to get on a bill like that clearly is not going anywhere? It would be blue slip by the House.
When's the last time you've been in school, my friend? Joining me now is our rapid response panel, Congressman Elijah Cummings from Maryland and Congressman John Tierney from Massachusetts. Congressman Tierney, you introduced legislation along with Senator Elizabeth Warren, which would give borrowers the opportunity to refinance their student loans. Why do you think Republicans think that is a bad idea?
Well, because they think it should be a profit center. They've obviously run up a significant debt in this country, from Iraq to a whole host of other matters that they promulgated on that. And the problem is that they now need to find some profit center to help pay down that debt. They've started using students and their parents as that base on that. And both Senator Warren and I have been working on this for a long time. And the idea is that, this is about access to education, about affordability, and getting people out into the job market, into their life as innovators and entrepreneurs. And be able to do it without lugging around a big debt. We can do this by making sure the loans, are paid back to principal, a little bit of management costs, and a little bit of default factor in there, and bring the interest rates way down. And that's what we should be doing.
Access and affordability are critical, Congressman Cummings. President Obama expressed outrage at what he thinks young people are facing. Listen to this.
I don't know, by the way, why folks aren't more outraged about this. I'm going to take a pause out of my prepared text. You would think that if somebody like me has done really well, in part because the country's invested in them, that they wouldn't mind at least paying the same rate as a teacher or a nurse. There's not a good economic argument for it, that they should pay a lower rate. It's just clout. That's all.
Congressman Cummings, is he taking a strong enough stance there, President Obama?
I think he is. And, first of all, let me say about Representative Tierney. He's worked very hard on this issue. Back in 2007, he worked to actually cut the interest rates in half on these student loans. Then in 2012, he was able to make sure that he didn't double. And now the bill that we're talking about. And I applaud him for all of that. Clearly, the president is on message, and he's absolutely right. We've got to fight for our young people. The number 2 or 3 question that comes to me when we're trying to hire people on the Hill is, do you have a program that's going to allow me to be able to help pay my student loans? We've got to do that. Keep in mind that, the cost of college has gone up 3 times in the last 30 years. In other words, it's gone up tremendously, 30% in the last 30 years, and the wages have not gone up. And so people are struggling. They want their children to do better than what they did. But if they cannot afford an education, cannot pay back the debt, there's a problem. As Tierney said, these folks are putting their lives on hold. That's why the Massachusetts mortgage bankers support the legislation. You haven't heard bankers supporting this kind of legislation? You know why? Because they realize that students, when people come out of college, they are saddled with debt, cannot get started Many of them have to move back into their homes with their parents, and so they want to see the economy move forward and people be able to buy homes, start businesses, and move on with their life.
Sure. Congressman Tierney, the Congressional Budget Office estimated your proposal would reduce the deficit by about $22 billion over 10 years. How can Republicans argue with those numbers and really stand against that?
Well, they can't on any legitimate basis, but they're arguing for the sake of argument because they, as I mentioned earlier, see this as a profit center. In reality, we shouldn't even have to pay for this because we're really just talking about not having a profit in the sense where we had to pay for in the bill, which was to do the Warren Buffett rule of not allowing somebody in his category of income to pay a lesser tax rate than his administrative assistant. That gave us the pay for, but that's just to, again, to have something in it to cover the debt that they've run up. So their argument really is weak, if existent at all. They just don't want to have a success for this president. They don't want to have a success on an issue that deals with the middle class, and they're quite content to have very wealthy people do well at the expense of the middle class and families that are out there struggling.
Yeah,
and Dr. Zeitzer, this is, by the way, for their constituents and our constituents. It seems like all of us, like the president said, it seems like all of us would be into this. I mean, it just makes sense.
Well, of course. Well, let me ask you a question. John Boehner is always talking about securing an economic future for his grandkids. My grandkids are watching now. Mosi, Max, Layla, hope you kids are obeying your grandmother. I'll be home soon. But why isn't he doing anything about his grandkids by securing their future by doing anything about this?
You got to ask him on that question, Doctor, but I'll tell you that not a day goes by that we don't get a number of emails and calls to the office, people stopping by, talking about the burden on them, lugging this around, or their children, if they're the parents of them, and sometimes the parents have the debt as well. The people get it. I mean, there's been a tremendous response to this. People have been asking for this for a long time. I think that the louder people speak up, the more they join together and make the noise, hopefully they're going to be the ones that force the House of Representatives and the Senate to actually take up some action on this and do something. It's about whose side are you on? We're clearly on the side of families. Whose side are they on?
No doubt. Congressman Elijah Cummings, Congressman John Tierney, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Coming up, conspiracy king Alex Jones